third Wednesday of every month, 12:30 to 2:30. And our goal of the skills lab is that you are going to walk away with a skill that you have either improved or you didn't know before, and you're gonna walk away with it. So today, last month, for those of you that were here, how many of you were at the live listing consultation that we did? Stephanie, Stacy, anybody else? All right, Scott was there, I believe. Anyway, the feedback was good, right? So if you missed it, and you really want to see a listing consultation about as live as it could be, considering people believe that it was actually moving. It was pretty real. Like, I should have sold my house with Brittany last month. So, we're gonna do the same thing today, but you can find that on the coaching Zoom page or on the YouTube channel. You can find that, go to the coaching Facebook page. You'll see the YouTube channel and it's posted out there. Today, we want to do the same thing, except this time we are doing it with a buyer. So with me in the room, by the way, we are in a coffee shop. See, we have coffee cups and everything here. So we're in a coffee shop. This is where we are. We're going to set the stage for the theater, right? And so we have Jordan and Katie Kessler here, from the Carol Kessler. It's still Carol Kessler, right? We haven't flipped it yet. Carol Kessler team. All right. And they are here in the coffee shop to meet Bria for the very first time. And she is wanting to purchase a home here in the Denver metro area. So we're going to let you watch them, observe them, listen to them. And then there will be a Q&A and we'll talk about some things afterwards. Okay. Everybody good? All right. Action. Get out of the way. Action.
Are we starting?
Go.
All right.
Yeah, here's the microphone. Been on the very stage. Yeah. Let's do a sound check really quick. So Katie, just talk as if you, no, don't look at that because you're not going to do that. Talk to Bria.
Hi, Bria.
Okay, can you guys hear her? Yes. Yes? Okay, Bria. say
Yes.
hi to Katie.
Hi, Katie.
Can you hear Bria? Okay.
Yes.
Go.
Well, hi, Bria. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us today.
Yes, of course. Yeah, I'm glad I was connected with y'all.
Yes, and we have to ask, how did you get our names?
Your friend John gave me your number and I work with him. So
Oh, we
Yeah.
love John.
Yeah, John's the best.
yeah, I really like him. I'm glad I met him.
Good, well, hopefully only said good things.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, so I knew I wanted to reach out to y'all.
We're glad you did.
Well, good, where are you from, Bria?
I'm from Austin and I actually just moved to Denver at the end of November.
End of November?
Mhm.
Okay, how do you like it so far?
It's been good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in an apartment, which I was moving from a house in Austin, so it's a little bit of a downgrade, so I'd like to buy as soon as possible.
Yeah, have you been to Denver before, or first time to Denver?
We vacationed here a lot when I was a kid,
Okay,
so like maybe 15 times over the years, so
Okay.
it's been a lot, yeah.
so you're kind of familiar with the areas then?
Yeah, not really the neighborhoods. I haven't really narrowed down on a specific neighborhood. I feel like west of downtown, somewhere west would be good. Maybe northwest is kind of where I've been looking.
Okay.
Where's your apartment at currently?
It's in Louisville, so
Louisville?
northwest.
Oh, nice. I
Yeah,
love that area.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you have, or what's your lease look like on that?
So it ends end of November. I do have some flexibility that I could move before then if I found the right place. However, ideally, I think I guess how early do we need to get started if my target date is end of November?
End of November,
Like
are you?
October or,
Yeah, well, maybe a little earlier than that, just
Okay.
because of our market, we'll kind of talk about what kind of home you're trying to get into in the area and you know, what that looks like. Are you month to month on your lease, or would you have to pay to? break
no,
it?
it's 12 months, yeah.
Okay, so you'd have to, you know what the cost would be to break your lease?
I think it's just
Give or take.
1 month's rent or
Okay,
maybe
so nothing
half.
too
I'd
crazy.
have to look at the lease, but I feel like if I found my dream home, I would be willing to do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have the option to also go month to month?
I haven't asked. Do you think I
Okay.
should ask them about
Well,
that?
the reason we ask is, you know, you never want to be in a position where you feel like you have to buy a home. So we like to explore all options before going into the process.
So it would be like after
Mhm.
my 12-month lease is up, okay,
You may be able to switch it like in the middle of your lease, they may
Okay.
charge you a little bit more to do so.
yeah,
But it may help you out, like Katie said, because the last thing you want to do is like, hey, break up the lease, and now I have to find a house.
Yeah.
You're making one of the biggest investments you'll ever make in your life. You want to be 100% sure about it, right?
okay, yeah, that makes sense, yeah.
Another thing too is, if you find that dream home out there, at least you know that you have that option to break your lease as well. We always try to time it if we can, that way it's the best scenario for your sake, but
Mhm.
otherwise that we like to look at those all options.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, and we'll cover kind of the timeline as far as, searching for homes, what happens once you want a contract, how long it takes. Just so you know,
Mhm.
contract to close is gonna be right around 30 days, depending on the lender that you work on, but right around 30 days. And actually, I brought this for you as well. I know you have
Oh,
that there.
awesome.
That's for you to take with you if you want to take any
Thanks.
notes. Yeah, you bet.
Yes.
So we know Dawn,
Yes.
I would know that. We know John told you a lot about us and had all good things to say, but here's just a little bit of information about us. We always like to bring this. We're not gonna go over everything, but yeah, we'll let you take that with you. You can read about it. But just so you know a little bit about us, we're a family team. It's Katie and myself. We're husband and wife. Katie's parents are actually part owners of the office that we're in, and Jim's been in business for a little over 40 years now.
Oh, wow.
So quite a bit of experience there. We've seen a few things. And also Katie and I are both natives to the Denver area. Katie grew up here in Nevada. I grew up in Broomfield, really close to Louisville. So we know the areas really well. We know, not where to stay away from, but if you have questions about a certain neighborhood, we're gonna be able to answer your questions pretty quick.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'll probably need help with that a little bit, trying to figure out the specific neighborhood.
Yeah,
So that's
definitely.
good.
We have great
Yeah.
resources, that way you can do your own research, and as far as we can still guide you as far as getting information that you need.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Okay,
you're probably looking at this picture and saying, oh, there's a fifth gentleman in there too. His name is TJ. He's on our team as well.
okay,
He's adopted into our family. He's a good family friend of ours. So, in case you're wondering who that fifth person is, that's TJ there. He's also a licensed appraiser. So he has a great deal of value for our team, especially if we have any kind of issues with appraisal later on.
Yeah. Yep.
so would he be appraising the home I buy then?
That is a great question. Unfortunately not. We wish he could, but there would be a conflict of interest there.
Okay.
He can't appraise any of our own homes.
Okay,
But as far as if there is any issues, he can take a look at it and give us guidance if there's anything that
Yeah.
we need to.
Yeah, in the rare case we've run into, and not so much in this market, in a market we were in about a year ago, where homes weren't quite appraising for the prices they were going under contract at.
Mhm.
And on the other side of that, sometimes the appraisal will come in a little bit low, with that as well. And TJ actually has been able to help us take those appraisals, we can object to them, and we'll talk about that in the contract process. But we've actually had appraisers reevaluate things and up their appraisal to get it to where they really should be. So he's a
Okay.
huge asset to have on our team, and that's all of our.
So he's helping, he wouldn't be working directly, but he might help us with that then?
Yeah, absolutely. If it came up, he's just another resource for us. And if for whatever reason, Katie and I weren't available to show you a home, like if a really great home came on the market and we had to get you in there right away, you might see TJ's face. You won't see Jim and Kathy. They won't show you. But TJ will jump out there. and show
Okay.
you. But it will be Katie and I for the most part.
Yeah, and that's
Sounds
one thing
good.
too, is, we are a full service team, and so the last thing we want for you to do is to miss a home. And so we always make sure somebody is available, but you'll be working with just one of us specifically. We're not just gonna pass you off to somebody on the team. Sometimes you see this with these larger teams. But, as far as you're gonna have that one-on-one service, but at the same time too, we wanna make sure we're always available for you.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know.
Yep.
That's good.
Yeah, and as far as going down this page, we have some credentials that we have earned over the years. If there's anything that you take away from this, it's our experience that we've been in the business for 40 years. We know what we're doing. Also, I would say one thing that we take a lot of pride in is, I would say 98% of our business is repeat and referral business. So we are going to be honest with you. As far as we are looking out for you, because, we hope someday you're referring your friends or coworkers to us, and 5-10 years down the road, you're calling us if you're wanting to make a move, so, this may be a home where you want to keep it and then buy another one. Or if you're in a position to, we're always looking for resale.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I see that right there. That's pretty crazy. That's a good stat. So,
Yeah, like Katie said, we take a lot of pride in what we do. We want to make sure this is a a sound investment for you. We're gonna, we're not just gonna open the door and let you walk into a house and say, Bria, what do you think? We're gonna walk it with you. We're gonna point things out that we know about, that could potentially hurt you if you go to sell it 5 to 7 years from now. We wanna make sure you make as much money as possible.
Yeah, I do want it to be a good investment because I don't think it'll be my forever home, but it'll get me to the next stage. And ideally, I would eventually like to rent it out when I buy my third home.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of long-term investment plan.
Yeah, that's good. So we can kind of keep our, one thing we'll keep in mind is rentability when we do go to rent it. To try to- Because the goal is when you either go to sell or to rent, you want to be able to rent or sell to all demographics.
Mhm.
Because the more people you can rent to or sell to, the better chances you are going to have to cash in on your investment there.
Yeah.
And Bree, have you owned a home before when you were in Texas?
Yes, I do own a home in Leander. It's rented out right now.
Oh,
I'm
good.
trying to decide if I want to sell it for the down payment, but I have a really great interest rate. So I was wondering what y'all's thoughts are around the rates. Do y'all think they're gonna come down any in the next few years?
We've had conversations with lenders and they're very optimistic as far as we have seen them come down a little bit in the last couple of months. But as far as this conversation that we've had with lenders, economists, that they foresee them to come down in the future here. So, there's a lot of great options as a buyer, different loan options too. There's a 2-1 buy down. That's something that we'll go into later on or with the lender that we can recommend to you. There's a lot of options, as far as getting into the home and then getting your rate down over time.
Okay, yeah, so I need to figure that out before November. It's 2.99, so I might just keep it, use some different money for the down payment, and then maybe if I could refinance from this rate. Do y'all think they'll ever get back down to 3 or 2?
We don't have that crystal ball, but I would say, it may be, without paying a cost. I don't know if they're going to get down that low, but we do foresee them getting lower.
Yeah, we see them coming back down. We hope we can settle somewhere in the low 5s, mid 5s would be
Okay.
ideal. That's what's gonna sustain our economy. I don't think we'll ever see 2s and 3s again without paying to get to that point.
Okay, yeah,
We could be wrong. If it does, it's not gonna be in our near future.
okay,
And it's not gonna necessarily be so much of a healthy market as well. One advantage is when rates were that low, there was so much more competition.
Yes.
So it was really tough as a home buyer. So as far as your timing right now, it's really ideal just because there's not that competition we were seeing a year ago.
okay, yeah, there is that trade-off with it, so
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, there were instances we were taking people out and we showed them a home and they would have less than 12 hours to decide if that's gonna be my next house.
Oh, wow.
And that's how it was for a while. So that's
Yeah.
one huge benefit you have on your timing right now is you're not gonna compete with that. In some cases, in some areas, we might run into multiple offers, but you're not gonna be expected to bring 20% cash over the list price to make an appraisal. We're not seeing that anymore, which is one huge benefit to buying right now. I know the rates are not ideal, but there's always the opportunity to refi. We actually work with some really good lenders too, if you don't have a lender in mind, that are offering a free refinance in the next 5 years. So as soon as those rates come down, you can refi it, which is usually a cost of 4, 5, 6 grand, where these guys are really trying to help buyers out right now and help get them in the market. So they're actually offering that free refinance to drop off that extra, whatever it is, and save you some money there.
Okay, yeah, I did, I was recommended a lender by someone, but they're one of the kind of bigger national ones, and so I was hoping, do y'all know any local people that I could meet with?
We most definitely do. We always advise buyers to talk to maybe 2 lenders, 2, 3 lenders, because it's good to compare and shop, what do their rates look like, their closing costs, but also that they have a good reputation. Because that's one thing that could potentially hurt your offer is if you're going with a lender that doesn't have a great reputation, you may not get your offer accepted as well. So
Okay,
these are lenders that we work hand in hand with, people that we can get a hold of on the weekends, all hours of the day, where, we're not waiting on the lender as far as if we're coming down to time crunch.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, because everything we'll do is we want to, when we write an offer for you, say we find that perfect house, and maybe there's another offer on the table. The more we can give you an edge and make your offer just a little bit more attractive to the seller by going with a local lender that has local underwriting that can process things much quicker than the big box
Mhm,
lenders, because
yeah.
with those big box lenders, sometimes you can't get a hold of somebody. And if you
They
do,
already haven't really been responding to me.
yeah,
so-
exactly.
You're more of a needle in the haystack, you know, we
Yes.
have found they're working on quantity and not quality,
Okay.
which makes a
Yeah.
big difference.
Mhm.
With going with local lender, they're, you're gonna call one person and you're gonna get them or their processor every single time. They're
Okay.
gonna know why you're calling, they're gonna know your dates and deadlines. So that's just one little thing we can do to make writing your offer just a little bit more competitive than what the competition.
Another thing that we have found too is they may quote you a lower rate, but they're really charging you on the back end. So, you know, it seems appealing, oh, I'm getting a lower interest rate, but you're actually paying for it, whether it's in your loan or in more closing costs. So
Okay.
something that you really have to be careful with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you do chat with that lender, there's a couple of questions you can ask them. You can say, what do my closing costs look like? And we can follow up when we finish here with an email of things you can ask a lender when you do make
Okay.
those calls. But like what a closing cost looks like, what are your loan origination fees? Everybody's gonna be pretty competitive with the rates they can offer. That's kind of a misconception that somebody's gonna give you a way better rate than the other. They're usually pretty straightforward across the board. But where you can really get in and save some money is kind of see what those fees are upfront. And how to
Okay.
lay those out for you.
And also not all lenders are the same. Some lenders may have different loan options, you know, that another lender is not offering.
Yes,
So that, you know, what that can fit your needs and lifestyle best.
Yeah.
So would that be the the free refinance? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I
That's
was
one
gonna say that's
program.
one of them. They have programs for nurses, doctors, for
Okay.
if you're a veteran, that's another, there's a whole bunch of different loan options.
Mhm. Okay, yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, I would definitely like to get that info so I could reach out to y'all as a person as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, we'll send you over 2 or 3 that we work with, and
Okay.
we don't get anything by giving you their information, we just know they do a good job.
Okay.
We've had great feedback from buyers that have worked with them in the past. But we would say call all 3 of them and ask them those questions and
Mhm.
see what's gonna be the best fit, have a conversation with them. They're gonna be a very integral part to you getting to the closing table and see who you like.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was gonna say who you wanna work with too, because each lender is different.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that. That sounds
Yeah.
good.
And now that you have a little bit about us, you know, this is our background, we have testimonials on the back. But you know, the main thing that we take away from this is we want to make this about you. So this is why we want to sit down with you and go through, really assess what your wants and needs, go through the process and just how we can best help you during the home buying process.
Yeah.
So we want to make this about you. We're not going to bore you with our team here, but
Yes.
we only put the good testimonials on the back anyways. Um, So yeah, so as far as we have a questionnaire, it's just a list of questions that we find that are very helpful as we're going through the home buying process. And you know, you may not know the answers to all of these questions, but these are things that maybe you start thinking about. Just kind of put it there on your radar. And as we go through the process, we can always go back and revisit.
Yep.
So you may say, I told you that on day 1, I do not want that at all. And let's start all over.
Yeah,
It's a learning process. It's also a learning process for us too. You know, we're really we're not going to set you up just on a search and let you find your home. We're out there actively looking for your home. That way, if we know of anything coming soon or maybe off market, anything that we can find
Yeah, the first few weeks out, it's gonna be a learning curve for, like Katie said, you're gonna find things that you like, things you don't like, you're gonna say, you know what, I absolutely do not want a bylaw, or I absolutely do not want a tri-lo.
You may say, what is available?
Right.
So you know, yeah, it's a whole learning.
Yeah, we're gonna start seeing certain floor plans, we're gonna start seeing, different things in different homes, and it's gonna be a learning process, like Katie said, for all of us, that way we can kind of narrow down and, towards the end of it, we're really finding the things you want to be in, and in the areas you want.
Mhm.
But yeah, and the reason, why we'll get into the lending piece of it a little bit more. here.
Yeah.
Um,
And so you kind of mentioned as far as what area you may be looking into, what area you're looking to buy in. Is it that Northwest Denver area you said, or Northwest area? Is there any city specifically?
I like Louisville, anywhere northwest, I would say probably, or second string would be just southwest.
Okay,
Okay,
But I'm pretty open. I'm willing to change the location for the right house, as long as it's still an okay location and it'll be a good investment.
what do you do for work, Rhea?
I work for a marketing company.
Okay.
Oh, fun.
Do you work from home or do you have an office you have to go to?
So I do have an office, but I don't have to go in there 9 to 5. I can kind of pick my hours. I'll go in for a few hours every week, so it's not like I'm gonna be commuting every day.
Okay.
So I'm okay with, yeah, the location is, downtown, but,
Okay.
I'm not worried about that commute at all. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we always like to ask, because there's different corridors of Denver one can take
Yeah.
45 minutes to 50
Yeah.
minutes, so we always like to ask that, so if that's not a big deal, that helps
Mhm.
open things up quite a bit.
Yeah, it does,
Yeah.
yeah.
And what do you like to do in your free time when you're not working? Do you like to go visit the mountains, go skiing, hiking?
Yeah, I like to hike, so that's kind of why I picked Northwest or kind of the west side, because I feel like I'm closer to Rocky Mountain Park and all of those areas.
Okay,
Foothills.
Yeah.
Good. So either northwest or southwest Denver,
Mhm.
okay, there's a lot of good neighborhoods over there. Northwest Denver, like I grew up in Broomfield, so I kind of know that area,
Yeah, I like that area too.
It's great.
Brookfield, yeah.
it's blown up.
Mhm.
It's really blown up the prices, Louisville, Boulder, Broomfield.
Mhm.
It's just they're a great area.
Mhm.
Schools are fantastic, all the amenities are around there, so really love that area. There's some really neat neighborhoods in there. There's some pockets where you can usually run into, some pretty good homes. Are you looking for more of, anything that needs, any work? Do you want turnkey move-in ready? Are you open to buying the ugliest house in the best neighborhood type scenario?
I'm open to a little bit of work,
Okay.
like maybe some small projects I could do myself or
Okay.
with a little bit of help, but definitely want it to be at least livable so
Right.
that I could move in and then maybe fix it up over time.
You're not looking for a full-blown remodel.
No, yeah, I'm not really. I mean, maybe down the road, but I don't really need that right now. I like some character and I like to do some little projects, so.
well, one advantage too is Jordan has a construction background as well, so he has a lot of great contractors that we can recommend that we work
Mhm.
hand in hand with. And so if there is something, that is cosmetic or remodel job, and we have a lot of people that we can recommend to help you with those.
Yeah,
Okay.
as long as you're open to at least carpet and paint, flooring and paint, that's where you're gonna run into the best options from what we see. Sometimes people see a house and, maybe the carpet's outdated or it has an old paint job, and they say no, because it needs paint. Well, paint's pretty easy. It's
Yeah,
even something you can do yourself if you want to pay for it.
yeah,
And that's where you can kind of run into some opportunities to get into a house in a good neighborhood where the other homes are going to carry the value on it, especially after you do a little bit of work with it, so.
yeah, I'm definitely okay with paint. Flooring makes me a little nervous because I would move in and then I would have to move everything off of the floor, so
Yeah.
unless y'all's contractors have quick turnaround times and we could do that after closing, I'm not really sure, but like paint or anything that's not flooring, I feel like is fine. I could do that while I was still there.
Yeah.
Okay, and one option that we can look at too is the timing, say if you find your dream home now, maybe you have some time where you can do some cosmetic pieces to your home before you move in, if you still have your lease that you can
Yeah.
live there.
Yeah,
So
I
these
have thought about
options.
that. So yeah, I do like that flexibility with
Yeah.
that, so.
Because to answer your question, yes, in most cases, we can line it up to where they go in and knock something out, even paint, they go in and spray it, they don't have to worry about taping things off.
Yeah, they could do it faster than I can,
Yeah,
so.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, so we just like to ask that question, just to make sure
Okay.
we're looking at homes, if we should be looking for turnkey or something that has a little bit of sweat equity as far as.
Yeah.
options goes.
Yeah.
Is there a minimum bedrooms that you're looking for? Do you have, as far as, do you want a specific home office? Do you want to have a number of guest rooms?
Yeah, I would love a home office and guest bedroom, so 3 would be perfect.
Okay,
I'm willing to go down to 2, but I would really love at least 3.
okay, and that's good to know. What we'll do is, as we're asking you these questions and setting up your search, we're going to start it on the minimum side, keep your search very broad, because even though the market isn't as competitive as it was, we still are seeing a low inventory. So, as far as what we're looking for, we know that ideally you want 3+, but we'll keep it at the minimum.
Okay.
So we'll start it off with that too then.
Okay.
We're also thinking of them from a resale standpoint as well.
Yeah. I was gonna mention that. I mean, a lot of this is gonna depend after you have that conversation with the lender you land on. not so much what you qualify for, but what your monthly payment looks like, and then what that equates to in the purchase price. But you know, if it allows you to buy a little bit more of a house with a number you're comfortable with, we would recommend that,
Okay.
just for the resale.
Mhm.
You know, we always recommend at least 2 bedrooms and at least 1 bathroom for the resale value. I'm sorry, at least 2 bathrooms, everybody needs at least one. At least 2 bathrooms for the resale.
Yeah, I would love 2 bathrooms. I feel like, especially when I have guests over, it's just nice to have it, even if it's just a powder bathroom, it's nice to have that
Yes.
second one,
Yeah,
so,
have that little bit
Yeah.
of separation.
yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
And another important question we have is, who is help as far as the decision making of the home buying process? Is it just yourself? Do you have somebody else that is helping you with this? As far as, you know, sometimes we see where home buyers, they may be getting gifted funds from a family member. Are they gonna have any say in the decision making?
Nope, just me.
Okay.
I'll probably like send the home, the MLS or the Zillow listing to my parents, just so they can see it, but I mean, just kind of want their stamp of approval, so. They won't really be helping, or it's just me and I have 2 cats, so it'll just be us.
Oh, great. That was gonna be my next question, is if you had any pets there.
Yeah.
And what's your cat's names?
Hazel and Violet.
Oh, what pretty names.
Yeah.
Do you have any preferred floor plans? Are you kind of familiar with the different floor plans we have here in Colorado, bi-levels and tri-levels? Or
I'm getting used to that, yeah. I'm okay with multiple floors. I don't need it to be 1 story. I prefer open, but I know with several stories, it can't be completely open like a 1 story. But what is, especially the kitchen and dining, or kitchen and living, I would like that to be
to
open.
be open, okay?
Mhm.
And then how about a basement? Is that like a must, or if it has one, great?
Are you used to a basement? Because I know coming from Texas, you don't have
There are
basements
no
there.
basements there.
Yes.
Yeah, they kind of freak me out, so. If it was finished, or if I could finish it out myself, I would like to do that. But I don't really have, I don't know what I would do down there. I might just leave it empty, so.
You see in Colorado, it comes in use a lot for storage. So
Okay.
that's one thing that we're also looking for, is if the home has a lot of storage or not.
Mhm.
And a lot of homes do have basements, so if
Okay.
you limited to homes with no basements,
Mhm.
we might limit ourselves, so.
Yeah.
As long as you're open to having a basement, you can just keep the door closed if you want.
Yeah,
Use it
Yeah.
for storage.
sounds good.
Wow. And one thing that we like to ask as well is, what are 5 important things that are in your future home? Since you've owned a home before, anything that you would change this time around that you're wanting versus from the last time that you bought?
Good question. I would love a kitchen island.
Okay,
I had that in my last home and I really liked that. Definitely lots of natural light in at least the kitchen and office. A built-out closet, or the ability to get it. In my last home, I had a Container Store do like a build in it, so that was nice.
Oh, nice.
With shelves and drawers and stuff, so either a good size that I could do that, or already done.
okay.
And then some sort of like sunroom or porch that I could screen in. Do y'all see those a lot here?
Sometimes,
Okay,
Yeah.
sometimes warmer here in Texas.
That's
than
true.
other times.
yeah, some,
One thing that's big though in Colorado is the outdoor living space.
Yeah.
So.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
mhm.
something like that. It doesn't have to be perfect, but some potential with the backyard situation.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, we don't have the screened in areas, because we don't have the bugs.
Yeah,
yeah.
Lots of bugs in Texas, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we don't have all this, but like Katie said, we have beautiful outdoor spaces.
Mhm.
Starting about this time of year through September, you're gonna be able to enjoy the outdoor space here, so it's
Mhm.
really nice.
Yeah, I'm super excited about that. And then I think that was 4. I don't know that I have another one. I think that's
That's
the main
okay.
things, yeah.
Okay.
Are there any things that you'd absolutely not have in your next home that you've had in homes in the past, that you're like, never doing that again?
I mean, maybe the natural light aspects. I've lived in some apartments, and when you don't have that, there's not much you can do.
Yeah,
Um, So I would say that's probably, I feel like I would be willing to give up the island and the closet for the natural light.
Okay.
My question for the island was, do you like to entertain, have guests over? Do you, and then, because we often find a lot of people like to dine at their kitchen island. And that's why they like them, and they are okay for going, formal dining. So are you wanting to still have a formal dining area or just a kitchen? The eat-in kitchen where you have a large island?
It could be either, yeah, why I named that is because I sit there a lot and eat. So if there was no island, but there was some sort of dining breakfast nook or something like that, I think that would be fine.
Okay,
Okay.
no, I think this is a great start.
Yeah. How are you finding homes right now? Or have you even started looking around?
Yeah, I've been looking on Zillow. I have an account and they send me emails with listings,
Okay.
so.
Well, good. There's nothing wrong with looking on Zillow. They actually take all their information from our multiple listing service, our MLS. And what we'll do is we'll take all this information, and then the last piece is gonna be the preliminary. And we're basically gonna start with this. And we're gonna draw you a geographical area. We're gonna put in a minimum number of bedrooms and baths. One thing we didn't ask about, and we'll talk about, is a garage.
Oh, yeah.
Garages are very important to Colorado. Not just for resale, but for store, well, I should say mainly for resale.
Okay.
For the storage piece of it, for keeping out of the snow, things like that. Do you have a preference on garage?
Yeah, I would love one. You could put that as the fifth thing then.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least one car. I don't know that I would need two. I mean, if it came with two, that's fine, but it would be nice to park my car in there. Yeah.
Yeah, two's ideal, just because you can park in and have storage.
Mhm.
And then again, for the resale piece of it as well.
Okay.
So it was like, so we'll enter all this information in here, and then we'll set you up on probably kind of this similar that Zillow sending you, but it's gonna come directly from the MLS. You're gonna get it a little bit quicker, you're gonna get more accurate information. And we're gonna set that up a few different ways. We can have everything sent to you in the morning, which is usually preferable. It came on the market the day before, or they can come to you as soon as they get put on, which can kind of like ding, ding.
I get a lot of
ding.
emails from us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially on, Wednesdays through Fridays, because that's when we see a bulk of our listings come on the market. So if nothing comes from us, say like Monday or Tuesday, it's because people they're waiting until Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
and also our search is very user friendly. So if there is a property you're liking, there's a little heart icon that you can click on. There's another one, you're like, oh, this could be a possibility. You can click the light bulb, and if you're one like, I do not like that at all, you can trash it. One, it helps us see what you're liking and not liking, but then also helps organize your search. Because after a while, you're gonna start looking at homes and say, did I even see this one? And they're all gonna just start to blur together.
Mhm.
So, as far as we're looking like, oh, she's liking these homes, we know of maybe, having conversations with other agents in our office or that we're doing transactions with, that they may have stuff coming up as well. We can keep that in mind and say, oh, I really think Bria may like that home too.
Yeah, the trash can is gonna be a good tool, because when we set it up, if it pulls 50 houses based on this criteria, you're gonna get all 50 at once of what's on the market. And it's like, oh, so use those tools to kind of, like Katie said, to mark them.
Mhm.
And then moving forward, you're just gonna get what comes on the market every day. So it could be one, it could be 6 or 7. So it won't be so overwhelming, but it is gonna bring you a lot of houses right off the start.
Okay, yeah, my only concern is I have a lot of properties already hearted on Zillow. And I don't really want to lose those. I kind of heard you mention some benefits, but what's the benefit of Zillow versus y'all's thing?
Yeah, using the MLS, the information that Zillow gets actually comes from us. So you're getting the information from the horse's mouth per se.
And as far as the benefit of Zillow, I would say it's something that if you have all those hearted properties, send them over to us. Sometimes they will still show active, and they may only be accepting backup offers when they're really under contract.
Yeah.
Okay,
So that way you're not getting your hopes up as far as, oh, this one's still maybe available. It just may not be. And they're marketing it to the public that it's still available, even though it's under contract.
And if you
okay,
see something on Zillow, like Katie said, send it to us,
Mhm.
because we'll dig into it and do the research. We'll find it through our MLS and just see what's going on. But there's a good chance if we're searching for the same things, whatever you had hearted in Zillow is probably gonna pop up for you in MLS.
I'd say any of the properties that you heart, if you want to send them over to us, or if you say, you know, I just hearted 5 and we can go and take a look at them, we're gonna be looking at things from a resale standpoint, like, oh, you may not have noticed, but this one backs up to C470 or E470, but you know, as far as certain, one thing you can't change is location. Location and floor plans are huge. So that's something that you may not notice. So we're putting our realtor hats on and looking at, you know, what is things that you may not notice as well, that we want you to be aware of.
Okay,
Yeah, we're, like Katie said, we're gonna look location first, you know, sometimes it's like, there's a really nice home, it's at a great price. And people send it over and they're like, we wanna see it tomorrow, we open up the map and it's on the corner of 2 major cross streets.
okay.
And we try to back, I'm like, listen, you know, it's a great house, but this could not be good for resale.
Well, there may be structural problems too.
Yeah.
We get that often where they love the kitchen, but you know, at the same time, too, you can always change the kitchen, you just can't change its location.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll probably just like screenshot the Zillow properties and text them to y'all if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Yep, and we can filter through those and take a look at them and see what we can find on our end as well.
okay.
And before moving on, do you have any questions about as far as what you're wanting to add, or is there any other input that is something that you want to add to your home search that we may have missed?
I don't think so. Do y'all feel like I'm missing something?
Not that,
I would assume we're looking for single family, not attached, is that correct?
Yes.
Based on our conversation?
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. So single family only, you're not interested in a condo or a townhome?
Not really,
Okay.
yeah.
this is a paper that we'll give to you as far as, you know, when we're going through the home buying process, it's a wants versus needs analysis.
Okay,
So, you know, as you're looking at homes, you can start out, okay, here are my needs and then here are my wants. And then that way, as you see more homes, you can decide, you know, you may cross out, that's not a need at all.
Yeah.
Or, and if we see a lot of times people do arrows where they're interchangeable. So they say, you know, as much as I thought that was a want, it is going to be a need.
okay,
Sometimes, you know, as far as fireplaces, that's one that we see like, oh, that would be a want, and they're like, you know what, I need a place to hang the stockings, or, so you just never know, you may be changing things out as you look at more homes.
And we know we just put you on the spot, made you decide everything in like 6 minutes, so that's why you can take this if you, you know, if you leave here and think of things, you can write these down.
Yeah.
And we'll
Yeah.
keep all that in
sounds
consideration.
good, thanks.
You'll be able to take this with you as well. This is frequently asked questions. And so we like to go through them with you because they may answer a lot of questions that you already have coming into this. I know this is a lot of information thrown at you. So just know that you can always ask us questions throughout the whole process.
Yes.
And you know, this page here, it's frequently asked questions about the mortgage, which that was a great question you had as far as the referral you got for a big bank lender. We'll send over some of the lenders that we work with as well.
Yeah, and we know you've already bought a house and you're probably familiar with the mortgage process.
Yeah, I don't remember all the details,
Sure,
but
sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
the basic process.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we have this frequently asked questions we can go through with you here. Are you familiar with what you would need as far as a down payment goes? Because that's gonna differ again with the lender you land on, kind of the programs they have, but are you kind of familiar with what would be required there?
Roughly, yeah, I think I do want to kind of narrow it down once I speak with them and figure out what makes sense for my finances and then my monthly payment, but I kind of know that I need to start saving and I have some money set aside already, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
And that's one thing too, you'll find that maybe it's more advantageous for you to put less down. Sometimes buyers think I need to put more down, but you really just want to focus on what your monthly payment is and what you're comfortable with. So another factor too, is we're going to have to look at what taxes and if there's HOA. You know, some
Okay.
homes may have higher taxes, which will really affect your monthly payment.
okay,
How do
yeah.
you feel about an HOA?
I'm okay, like, I would prefer not to have one, but I'm okay with
You
one.
don't have like a collection of campers or anything we need to be worried about?
No,
Okay.
nothing, yeah, there's a HOA at my house in Austin and they're fine, they have some rules, but I haven't had any beef with them, so I'd prefer not to have one, but I'm okay with it if it's a good location and good house.
Well, the
That's
good
good.
news is too, once you're under contract, you'll get access to all the HOA documents. So if there is something that you're not okay with, you at least have that out for you to review the HOA.
Okay,
So-
yeah, would be good.
It's hard to say, and so this year is, I'd say mainly a lot of the mortgage questions, it's always best to direct those questions to the lender, that way you're getting the right answers, but we're always happy to give guidance as well.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good.
The next is about the search, so we did cover that or a lot of how we're going to be sending you the homes, the search that we're setting up. We often get this too, if people are driving around, they say, hey, there's a sign in the yard, but I can't find it on Zillow, you haven't sent it to me. Always take a picture of the sign, the address, we're happy to call on it.
Yeah.
So we just want, that's another thing too, is for your safety too, you just don't want to go knock on somebody's door.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how would y'all find that home then? Do y'all have access to homes that I don't?
So sometimes there's a sign in the yard, they're not quite in the MLS, they could be listed as coming soon, and we just haven't got their information in there yet.
Okay,
But yes, if there's a sign in the yard, we should be able to get as much info on it pretty darn quick.
Or sometimes
Okay.
for sell by owner, they just list a phone number, we're happy to call and or ask them the right questions too.
Yep.
okay,
Yep, exactly.
And like Jordan mentioned, that coming soon, you may see this on Zillow, if you've been looking on Zillow, sometimes homes are listed as coming soon. You aren't allowed to see those homes prior to market, but that's something we can call and get information on. If it's one that you saw one maybe in the same neighborhood, and you said, you know what, I'm already sold on pictures, you can still write an offer as coming soon, sight unseen, they may not take it, but that is still an option.
okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know you could do that. I feel like I would still want to see in person,
Yes.
Yes.
but unless it was like the dream home.
Yeah.
Most
And-
often sellers aren't going to take a sight unseen offer, but we have seen it happen before, just so you know, it's an option.
Yeah. Yep,
Okay,
just an option.
Yes.
And a lot of people ask us, well, if I like a house, what do I do if I want to see it? And at that point, you'll call us and text us. We're gonna be looking at your search every morning to see what comes on the market, and if we haven't already sent it to you and said, Bree, this is good, like, you have time to see this one. You're gonna send it to us and say, hey, I have a lot of interest in this, or hey, I can see homes on Saturday. Can we see these for? It's just gonna be a communication. If you're open to, as far as the way you want to communicate, if you're open to texting or email, whatever's easiest, we're gonna have an open line of communication. And as soon as you want to see homes, we're gonna get out there and see them, right away, because even our market has slowed down a little bit. But still, homes in the right neighborhoods that are move-in ready, that have all the nice things about them
Price correctly.
and priced correctly, they're gonna sell, they're gonna move pretty quick. So if you see something you like on a Wednesday, we're not gonna wanna wait until Monday to go see it. We're gonna wanna go see it pretty quick. But we're pretty easy to communicate with. You're gonna just reach out to us and we're gonna be able to set that showing.
Is there a time of day that's best for you to see homes typically?
my schedule's pretty flexible. Do y'all have set hours that you can do showings during?
We always recommend, as far as you always want to see a home during daylight. Now that it's staying light later, we can see homes a little bit later, but you also want to see it, one, for safety purposes, but also really that way you're not missing anything from the exterior. Really getting, and also looking at the natural light, with that being very important to you,
Yeah.
you wouldn't want to see it during the dark time.
Yes.
Yeah, I forgot about the natural light. So yeah, I mean, probably late morning, early afternoon, but I'm flexible, so as long as I'm not in the office that day, then I can just kind of go away for a couple hours and go view the home, so.
Perfect. We're gonna be just as flexible as well.
Okay,
If it's not Katie or I, we have TJ that can also get out there and show you, so.
Yes, and we have to look at sellers too. Sometimes they say, for instance, if they have a young one, they may not show during nap time, or they may have restrictions on their end. So we'll have to look in to see what hours they are showing.
okay, that's fine. Yeah, I'm flexible for that.
Yeah.
Good.
A lot of times you find that house that you love and buyers say, okay, well, what should I offer? It's going to depend on each home. Every scenario is different. It's all about how you get creative. And if there is multiple offers, how do you make your stand out amongst the rest? So, once we get there, that's where we're really looking to see what suits the seller's needs the best, while looking out for you and advocating for you as your agent.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We're gonna be calling that listing agent and just asking simple questions. Sometimes a listing agent will tell us everything we need to know, and sometimes they don't want to tell us anything. So we're gonna take as much information as we can get, and help you write the best offer. Do they need extra time in the home? Are you familiar with what a post-closing occupancy agreement is?
Yes, yeah, I am. So.
Okay, so we'll see, does the seller need 2 weeks in the home to move or to get
Okay.
things out? We're gonna be asking questions like that. What's most important to the seller? How can we make it work best for you to make your offer look as attractive as possible?
Okay, so will y'all help me figure out what price to offer then?
Yes, and we're looking as far as, what is a good value for you? How do they price their home? We're looking at comparables, but we're really paying attention to not only what has sold, also what is active and what's under contract. As
Okay.
far as what supports the value for where they are at.
Yep.
Okay,
So we're always looking out as far as, is it good value?
Yeah, our market right now seems to be changing quite a bit, so, we can see what homes are listed for, we can see what homes have closed for. What we can't see is what homes are under contract at, so what we're gonna do is find those ones that are in the neighborhood that are under contract, and we're gonna call them and see if they'll tell us. Are they 20 below the list price, are they 30 over the list price? That way we can use those numbers to help you come up with a number that you feel comfortable.
And there are some homes you may see and say, I really like it, but then if we look at the value of it, they may be overpriced too. We've had that happen before. Where, we want to make sure it's a good investment for you. That's something you mentioned that was important earlier, as far as, is it going to hold its value and appreciate where it is a good investment?
yeah, that is important to me, yeah,
And appraise.
yeah, that's true,
And
that too,
appraise.
yeah.
Yes. And once your offer does get accepted, don't think you have to remember everything that we're going over right now. We're always sending what comes next emails. So it's exciting, you get your offer accepted, and you're like, great, I'm under contract, what's next? So, we're sending those, what comes next? One thing is earnest money that we do like to bring up. It's typically, and you said that you've saved some money, which is great.
Mhm.
Typically, we see about 1 to 2% of the purchase price. But you can consider that as a deposit. You turn it into the title company and they're going to hold on to it until you close. And then it's applied at closing.
Yes.
So that will be an upfront cost in the beginning, is the earnest money.
Okay, I think I remember that from my first home, and then there's the inspection costs too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so your earnest money is gonna be, like Casey said, it's gonna be your deposit, it's gonna be your fee to the contract. To go through the whole contract process. But yes, other than your earnest money, your upfront costs are gonna be, your appraisal and your inspection as well.
Okay,
Some lenders may let you pay for the appraisal at closing.
Yes.
Some may want that upfront. It just depends on which lender you go with.
okay, and what are those costs for those two things?
So with the inspection, it depends. A lot of times they base their inspection upon the square footage of the home. So we can get, once we go under contract, we'll get a price quote as far as how much that inspection is going to look like. But then also other things that you want to expect, we always recommend doing a radon test or a sewer scope. Are you familiar with what radon is?
Not really, yeah.
It's something that we see in Colorado. It's what it technically is decaying uranium in the soil, and it can vary amongst homes. But if it comes above a certain limit,
It's a gas that leaks into the house from underneath the
Oh,
foundation.
okay.
It comes up, it's common in basements, it's a heavy gas.
Okay,
But it is the number 2 leading cause of lung cancer.
Oh, wow.
In the United States, so it is important, it's worth testing for, at least in the state of Colorado, it is, because they don't know, they have it in Texas.
yeah,
especially without basements, we
Yes.
find it higher in the lower levels.
Yes.
So that's an item you can then negotiate with the sellers as far as installing the radon system.
Yeah, if you're driving around and you see this PVC pipe that's stuck to the side of the house, you'll see one and then you'll start seeing them everywhere. That's a radon mitigation system, so it's not gonna be worried about.
okay,
It's right around $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 to mitigate, usually something we can have a seller look at doing in some cases. But nothing to worry about, but something worth testing for.
And to answer your question, that usually runs about $150.
Yeah.
So that you have the home inspection, that's going to run based off the square footage. We see that typically run anywhere from around $300 to $400. And if you do a radon test, I would expect another 150, and then a sewer scope, that's about another 150. But that's something that you do want to inspect even on newer homes, because it can be a very costly repair. And it's something you can negotiate with the sellers for them to fix.
okay. So the radon thing, it would get rid of it or lessen it if that was the case?
So you'll never get rid of it, but it will mitigate the gas. It's a fan they put in with a PVC pipe, and it's basically sucking the air out from underneath your foundation and blowing it above your roof.
It's gonna lower the levels below the EPA limit.
Yes.
So
Okay,
that way it's below that it's 4.0 picocarries, so,
We don't know what pico carries are, we just know.
Yeah. Yeah. They have to be below there.
okay,
Yes,
so I'm not passing up the home, it's just something we deal with if it came up in inspection?
yeah.
Okay.
yeah, and it's fairly common sense. And then like Katie said, sewer scopes are really, really important because if there's a break in the sewer line, the cost to repair is usually minimum $3,000 to $4,000. If it's a whole line replacement that goes up the street, it can be as much as $15,000 to $20,000 depending on the length of the line.
Okay.
So super important, absolutely worth doing.
Mhm.
And some of the older homes in Colorado, we have clay sewer lines, and roots can intrude in there. They can fail over time, so it's absolutely something worth getting looked at. I think it's about $150 for a sewer scope right now, but
Okay.
absolutely worth it.
We've even seen it on new homes too.
Yeah.
Or maybe they just, we've
Wow.
had one where they didn't hook up the sewer line.
Yeah.
So you just never know.
They just buried it in the front yard, and buyers moved in, flushed the toilet a few times and everything backed up. So it's definitely worth looking at.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wow,
Kind of
yeah.
a situation you don't want to be in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's something we can recommend as well. We have a handful of inspectors that we've worked with, and again,
Okay.
we don't get anything for recommending them, we just know they do a very thorough job of the home inspection, and that's something you're welcome to be at as well. The inspection is gonna take, depending on the size of the home, 2 to 4 hours. You're welcome to be there, ask the inspector questions, so it can be a good process for you to learn things about the house too.
And one thing is, once you do your home inspection, if there is any concerns that come up with the home, you have the right to address those with the seller. You'll put it in writing as far as, I have concerns about items A, B, and C. And, some of those items may be non-negotiable, where, you can decide as far as, do I want to move forward or not? But then sellers, they will come back and negotiate those items with you.
Yeah.
And make sure that you're comfortable moving forward.
Okay, and so y'all will help with that whole.
100%, yes.
Okay.
Yes, we don't put you under contract
Okay.
and say, see you closing.
Yeah.
We'll be there
That's
every
good.
step of the way. And a question we get a lot of the time is, can I get my earnest money back? You absolutely can't get your earnest money back. Because the earnest money is gonna get turned in 3 days after you go under contract. And like Katie said, the title company is gonna hold it. But if something comes up at inspection, like Katie said, that, say there's a broken sewer line, for example, and you say, hey, I want you guys to fix it, and the seller says, I'm not giving you a dime. You can say, okay, I'm taking my earnest money back, and I'm gonna terminate this. So you're not stuck with the house, you're not stuck with any repairs. And the same is gonna be for the title review, to make sure you're getting a free and clear title with no encumbrances or liens. Same is gonna be for appraisal, and a few other things as well. You actually have a deadline, once you go under contract, to get a quote for your homeowner's insurance, and say you find out you're in a floodplain. Or for whatever reason, your premium is gonna be doubled because of X, Y, Z. If you don't like your homeowner's insurance, you can actually terminate, get your earnest money based on that as well. So the
Okay.
contract is really written in the buyer's favor in the state of Colorado to do all of your due diligence. So you don't feel like you're stuck with anything.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know. That's definitely helpful.
Then once we get past inspection, that's when we'll order the appraisal, the lender will.
Okay.
So we'll give the green light to the lender, say, inspection's good, go ahead and order the appraisal. And that way they can keep moving along with the loan process.
Okay, and y'all said 30 days, right? For-
About 30 days. And like Katie said, we do our best to hold off the lender ordering the appraisal. Because the last thing you want to do is have your lender order your $600 appraisal from the get-go. But what if you run into that sewer line issue and you guys can't get through inspection? You would still technically have to pay for that. So we kind of work with your lender as well and say, hey, hold on, okay, things look good, let's go ahead and get it going.
Okay,
So as long as we don't run into anything like that, 30 days is very, very doable in terms of closing along.
okay, sounds good.
No, that's a lot about the process. Do you have any questions as far as the process of how that goes in order?
I don't think so. I mean, the timing seems pretty standard. Is there a best time of year to buy?
That's a great question.
Mhm.
We find that, as far as best timing, it's slower during the fall and winter months. So you may not have you're not gonna have as much inventory on the market, but your buyer pool is also not gonna be as many people swimming. You know, we do, when the spring and summer come, you know, we do see more homes come on the market, but everybody's jumping into the pool. So you may have some more competition. I would say, you know, it just depends on what your timing is too. You know, is you may miss out on more inventory as far, there may not be as many homes to see in those winter months. Where, you know, we'd rather have you looking at more homes when there's more inventory, and then we can be competitive and be creative with your offer. As far as helping get that accepted.
Yeah, we see a little bit of the middle of the summer months can be a good time as well.
Mhm.
People go on vacation, which takes people out of the buyer pool,
Mhm.
which can leave some opportunity there. But there's really no one way or another about it. You know, as long as we're staying in the market, we can find good opportunities at any time of the year. But there are little pockets where things seem to slow down a little bit and create a little bit more buyer opportunity.
Mhm.
Okay, so maybe get started now and then see how it goes this summer.
I would say so. It doesn't hurt to start looking now, like you said, if your dream home comes on, and you'd be surprised. You may look at your first home and say, wow, I already found my home. I love this. You know, we can go out and look at other homes, but you'd be surprised. A lot of people do find their homes the first time out too. So
Okay,
the
Yeah,
main thing is we just want to make sure you're 100% comfortable moving forward.
okay, yeah, that's good to know.
yeah, because like Katie said, if something comes on the market next week, you know, you may want to go see it. And it'd be good to have the ball rolling.
Especially since you've been looking on Zillow, you may have an idea, kind of some
Yeah.
of the homes, and if something really does catch your eye.
Yeah, I have been looking, I haven't gone to view any homes in person, but I would like to get into some soon, yeah.
And you'll find that pictures can be deceiving. It's always good to go look at homes. You never know what it smells like either.
Yeah.
So, yes, and we've had even buyers before where we've sent them homes and say, I think you're really gonna like this. And they've said, I don't like the pictures. I'm like, trust me. But as far as this is one that, from everything that you've seen and told me, I know the pictures are awful. But let's go see it. And then there's the one they bought. So, and they love it. They're like, they still talk about it. Like, I'm so glad you made us go look at that.
Yeah.
So, and that's another thing too, is we're not going to be pushy as far as, you know, we want it to be a decision you're comfortable with. We're just here to help with finding your home
Okay,
and advocating for you.
Yep, absolutely. Like Katie said, you don't know what the home smells like. You don't know what the neighbor's backyard looks like.
yeah,
So you always have to get out there and see it in person. Yes,
You'd
yeah,
be surprised, some of the
Yes.
things you may see.
yeah.
It's
And
fun.
Yeah,
It's exciting.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great process. It's a learning process. You're gonna find some things you like, you're gonna find some things you don't like, and we're excited about it.
And so as far as next steps go, what we'll do is we're going to send over those lenders that we're happy to recommend. We'll go ahead and get, you know, sorry, I keep hitting you there. As far as the lenders there, before we set up your search, we want to make sure that as far as getting pre-approved, getting that pre-qualification letter, just because we also don't want to start showing you homes or setting you up on a search and getting your hopes up. We want to make sure we're in line with what the lender qualifies you for. So we'll have that conversation after you've talked with a couple of lenders as far as where we need to be, where you're comfortable with your monthly payment.
Yep.
So last thing we want to do is show you a home and get your hopes up and then find out your monthly payments double than what you wanted it to be.
Yeah, and I do have a question about that, since my time frame's kind of long.
Mhm.
I thought I saw online that it's only valid for 90 days, the pre-approval, but it dings your credit. So my only thought was maybe I should wait a few months till we get closer to November. Does that make sense?
It does, and one thing too that we always like to point out is when you are home shopping, if it is for the same reason. So basically, if you are talking to multiple lenders, it's not going to ding your credit each time. Now, say if you're out there shopping for a car, if you're shopping for a home, a boat, everything, then it's going to ding your credit. But
Okay.
one thing is they can update your verification even if it goes past that 90 days.
Yes.
And they're not doing a hard pull on credit. A lot of times they'll start off with a soft pull first. That way you're not taking as much of a hit.
Yes.
Okay,
And like Katie said, if you're talking with multiple lenders, one's gonna pull it once, and then as long as it's being verified for the same reasons, it's not gonna be a full credit check, full credit check, full credit check.
okay, so it's just the one time ding.
Correct.
For that, okay,
And if they know that you're further out, they may start with just a soft pull too,
Yes.
okay,
before they actually do a full on credit report.
okay.
Yep. Exactly. If you tell them, hey, I'm not going to be looking until then, they'll say, let's go ahead and wait. We'll do the soft pull now, and then they'll do a full on credit check at that.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I can let them know about that then.
Yeah. Yeah,
Each
they-
lender is different, so always have to ask them those questions as well, just to make sure.
Mhm.
and they're gonna have a lot of good questions for you as well.
Okay.
To make sure they can verify and do everything they need to do there.
Mhm. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah,
So I think that'd be the next step, is just getting you in touch with those lenders. One thing that we always like to give as far as the people that we meet, it's called an exclusive right to buy listing contract. And you know, this here, it's a contract between you and us, allows us to help represent you, show you homes, and advocate on your behalf as an agent. And so this is something here, you know, we're not going to just make you sign it right here. We're always happy to go over it with you, but before we start showing you homes and advocating for you as an agent, we will have to have this in place with our office.
Okay,
And
so
so as far-
before show, or why is it before showings?
Just because, you know, we're receiving this information from you, you know, we're giving you confident, or as far as we're advocating, talking about financial information. Advocating as an agent, showing you homes, maybe pointing out things, as far as our relationship, it needs to be established prior to looking at homes.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I'll probably want to look that over maybe this evening or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess one question that we haven't, a lot of time that we haven't addressed, a lot of people say, well, why don't I just go through the listing agent? You know, that's one thing, maybe I can get a better deal. You know, for us, we're working on your behalf as an agent where, you know, if you're going through the listing agent, they may not have your interest at best as they're working for the seller. So, you know, there may be things they're not pointing out or negotiating on your behalf, where that's something, you know, especially when it comes to inspection, you know, they may be still representing the seller in that case. And, you know, at least we can negotiate those items for you, getting you the best price for the home, but then also when it comes to inspection.
yeah, and as you look through this and to kind of touch on what Katie's talking about, is that there are different ways we can represent you in the state of Colorado. And for the example, Katie, you say you call a listing agent, the best they could do to represent you is be a transaction broker, which makes them a referee for the transaction. So they're not actually looking out for you or advocating for you or the seller. They're just doing basically what they're told to do for both sides of refereeing the transaction. Another way they could represent you, which gives you even less coverage and less anybody looking out for you, is representing you as a customer. Because at that point, they remain a sole agent for that seller, and then you just become a customer, and they simply write contracts the way you ask them to.
They
And so
facilitate the closing pretty
and
much.
facilitate the closing. So that's why it's important to have a buyer's agent working for you, because we're actually working on your behalf, trying to get you the best deal. And another question we get a lot, and I know you bought a house, but just to reiterate, is we don't charge you anything. We don't charge you to show homes, we don't charge you to write contracts for you. You're not gonna pay us anything at the closing table, because all of that's gonna be taken care of from the listing side of things.
Okay.
Sometimes people think that they have to pay us whatever the co-op is, and that's not the case. So in case you were curious about that, but these are the different brokerage relationships we have. We have a form called brokerage disclosure to buyer, and it would outline that we would actually be a buyer's agent strictly for you, working solely on your behalf.
Okay.
We do put a time period in here, you know, we just like to point this out, we never want you to feel trapped. If there's for some reason where you say, you know, you guys are awful, I don't want to work with you, I want out of this contract, and there's a legit reason, say, I don't want anything, you know, you're not showing me homes.
We're
Like,
not picking up our phones, if we're not doing a good job for you, you
say,
can fire.
it's just not a good fit, and you know, we can move on, that is okay too.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, this is a pretty complicated, but I guess that makes sense to sign as the buyer's agent then.
Yeah.
And once we begin the home process, we'll go over this with you. The last
Yeah.
thing we want you to do is sign anything that you don't know, that you're not familiar with.
Yeah.
Okay.
They are all state approved forms. So where the sections are with a blue or a checkbox, that's what we filled in.
Yeah.
So as far as it's not a contract that we've written.
Yeah, we'll send this with you tonight, and we'll look it over, make little notes on it, and then, here in the next couple of days, when it's a good time for you. We can sit down, it'll take 35-40 minutes to go through, and we'll just kind of go through each one and explain each section to you, what they mean and what they're.
Mhm.
Like Katie said, we never expect you to sign anything without.
Yes.
Yeah,
We're not gonna give you a contract to sign right here, but we do want you to be familiar with it. If you want to
Okay.
read it ahead of time.
yeah, I'll do that. I'll read it. Yeah.
Yeah,
is there any questions that you have for us? I know that was a lot of information just thrown at you.
It's like drinking through a fire.
Yeah, I don't think so. I feel like y'all answered them. I don't, I might have some later. Could I reach out to y'all later if I think of any?
Of course, anytime.
Okay.
Is there a preferred method of communication? Do you want us to be calling you, email, text? What is your preferred communicate?
I think probably text, unless it's, you know, a long one, then we can do a phone call, but maybe text me first to see if I'm available.
Okay,
Mhm.
Yeah, and what's your phone number, Bria?
512-968-8389.
Okay, well, if it's okay with you, what I'll do is I will just put together a group chat with all three of us on it. That way you can easily get both of us at the same time. And then we can just kind of communicate and kind of start the ball rolling from there.
Mhm.
Also, do you mind if I get your email address as well?
Yeah, briabone@gmail.com.
Yes. So what I will do is when we get out of here, I will follow up with an email, just with some simple questions to ask lenders.
Okay,
As well as some information for those lenders as well, so you can actually reach out to them.
okay.
And then that way you'll have my email, I'll put Katie's email on there, and I'll also start a group chat, and we can just start communicating from there.
yeah,
Sounds good. Yeah, I'll reach out to those lenders probably this week so we could go ahead and get started.
Okay,
yeah.
great.
All right, well, we look forward to it. It's exciting.
Yep, I'm excited.
Yes, and I know it's been a while since you bought your last one. We will leave you with this. So in the back of the packet, there is just that different vocab. You may hear us say MLS and you're like, what is this MLS that they're talking about? It describes what these different vocab we may use over time. Say for instance, you like Jordan talked about title insurance. What is that? Expired listing. So it's just good to have this here along with, this is your first home book, but if you want to refresher it, it's a great book. So
Okay,
just a little light reading too.
yeah, well, I love to read. so.
Thank you again for your time, Drew. Very nice to meet you, and we're excited.
Thank y'all. Yeah, it was great to meet y'all as well.
Yay. All right, y'all think you're off the hook.
Yeah,
I know I was thinking, like, oh, I should read it as well.
sit here and get.
No, Bria was too nice.
She was nice.
She was very-
So, you told me, she said she knew what postponed occupancy agreement was. But I would say that probably 95% of our buyers do not. So we're gonna change that answer. What do you mean a post closing? What, I thought I got possession at the day of closing. What are you talking about? Go.
So sometimes what we'll do is we'll get all the information ahead of time. If you find a house you like, we may find out that, hey, the seller absolutely needs 30 days in the home after closing. Maybe they're building a home. Maybe they don't have anywhere to go for 30 days. Maybe they have to move. What we can do is execute what's called a post-closing occupancy agreement. And it basically makes you the landlord that makes the seller or the tenant the day after you close. And we can negotiate those terms. Say they want to stay for 30 days. You can say, great, I want you to pay 80% of my mortgage, and I want X for security deposit. We can outline who pays for utilities, who pays for water and sewer. It's just an agreement between you and the seller that allows them to stay in the home after closing. Now, if there's multiple offers, we can kind of use that as a tool as well. Maybe there's another offer on the table and they want them to pay 90% of their mortgage for 30 days. You can come in and say, well, hey, I'll let you stay 30 days for free. Because I don't think one thing that we talked about is, say you go under contract in November and close in December, you actually wouldn't have the first mortgage payment until February. So you're gonna have some leeway there that's going to allow you to kind of pull that string, as somebody once told me, when you're writing an offer, make your offer stand out. You could offer them to stay in that home for 30 days for free, and you actually are gonna have more grace period there.
Awesome. So you were talking about that you would be my agent as the buyer. But what happens if I fall in love? Because I know you guys with your team have a lot of listings yourself. So what happens if I fall in love with a property that you're the listing agents on? So don't you have an agent relationship with the seller? So how are you going to do that?
It depends on the situation where we're at with the listing process. If that is the case, then we may we have different options. We could refer you to somebody to advocate as an agent, or like Jordan said, as far as, we can work as a transaction broker at that point, where we have to be a referee. We can't go to the sellers and say, hey, I know she's willing to come up more and go to them or go to you and say, you know, we know they're willing to come down, we have to be a referee. We change our relationship basically from a coach to referee. So whatever you're most comfortable with, we have different options.
Yes.
And does that mean that I only get the referee when the seller still gets the coach?
No, so as far as if we're representing both sides, we'll be a referee. However, then if you don't feel comfortable with that, then we can refer you to somebody else and they can advocate as an agent for you.
Will depend on how both parties feel most comfortable. Being a dual agent, we'll just be a referee for both sides. If our sellers don't want us to budge from our seller agency that's already in place, we can only represent you as a customer, which means we really can't advocate for you at all. You're really not getting any coverage from us at all. And if that's the case, if that's where our sellers want to stay, we don't have a choice. So at that time, we could look at, like Katie said, referring you to somebody, see if somebody advocated. And that would probably be our recommendation if that's how our sellers follow.
Yes,
Okay.
it'd be in Colorado, it's not a dual agent state, it would be like a lawyer representing both sides.
Exactly.
There's a conflict.
Mhm.
Got it. And can you write that offer as done as a customer?
You can, as long as both sides are comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And do a change of status.
Tricky part is we have an agency relationship with both. Right, so the easier way, better way is if we either automatically flip them both to TV or refer. Cause
We have-
he's gonna feel really crappy if you flip her to a customer after you told them
Yeah, exactly.
differently, right?
That's why we want to give the option to refer, you know, there is a gray area where we have tried to, as far as, you know, refer somebody then else on our team. But then there's still that conflict there
There's
with
no
all of
conflict
us
there.
being our relationship.
So you said that there's absolutely zero, I don't pay any of your fees at all as the buyer. But what happens if I fall in love with a for sale by owner who refuses to pay you?
That's a great question. You know, as far as for sale by owners, it can be negotiated. If for some reason, then they are refusing to pay a co-op, then that's something we're going to have to negotiate into the offer at that time.
So we'll have to revisit.
And that is something, you know, if we're in that situation ahead of time, we will let you know prior to even seeing the home.
Right, and we do see most for sale by owners, 95% of the time, they're willing to pay a fee on our end. They just don't want to pay a listing fee. So don't be afraid to not open that for sale by owner tab on Zillow. If you see something you love, we will certainly explore it. And as Katie mentioned, if for whatever reason the seller's heels are in the mud, they're not going to pay anybody, we will have to visit that and see how we're gonna get around.
We'll let you know ahead of time.
Okay.
So I'm putting my coach hat on now. So it's super important when you guys are doing that buyer agency agreement that you check that section that says seller or listing agent brokerage may pay, seller is obligated to pay. By checking that box.
Buyer's obligated.
Buyer's obligated to pay, sorry. Long 2 weeks. By checking that box, it gives you the right as a broker to request for your full commission rate to be written in as a request into the contract. If you do not have that checked, you don't. So who is a contract to buy and sell? Who are the parties in the contract to buy and sell? Buyer and seller, right? Is your commission benefit either one of those two people? It benefits who? You, right? However, if the buyer is responsible for your minimum commission rate, now who does it benefit? The buyer. What happens is, one of the hardest sections for agents to explain is that 8.1.1. Okay, because in bold, it says buyer is obligated to pay. And that's not the most important sentence in the paragraph.
That's
The most important,
everybody's eye.
it absolutely does. The most important sentence is the second one, in which it states that the buyer is therefore giving you permission to negotiate it. And Jordan's gonna read it to you line by line, right? Is that, right? That therefore gives you permission to ask for it. Right? But your buyer, the reason is sitting here, she's reading this contract, she's gonna say, whoa, you all told me I didn't have to pay a fee. But this says I am, right? So if you're gonna practice a conversation when you're reviewing the contracts, when it comes to the buyer's agency, that is probably the most important section for you guys to be able to explain.
I was gonna say, that's the one, because we'll go over this with them on the phone too, as far as, like Jordan said, paragraph by paragraph. They said, maybe I have time right now, let's go through it. then we will, or over the phone, but as far as, the rest of it's over here. But otherwise, I would say that's the most pushback that we get is, or the most questions, we always address it head on. To say, you're probably wondering why it's saying this is something we want to explain to you. But yeah, you have to have this, and this was more important, I would say, back when Trey Laura was big.
Have you even seen all the 2% buyer agency co-ops lately?
No.
I'm seeing tons of them.
It used, back in like 2013, 14, when I first got in real estate, Trey Laura was a thing.
Right.
Where they would just pay a flat 3,000, that was what they, and so we had to write our commissions into our offers for our buyers to get paid. And that was the main reason we had to have that check, was to get paid through, and it was always Trey Laura listings.
Yep, it was, but now we're seeing 2%, right? So I, like you guys, I will hit that on. Goodness. I will get that head on when I'm going through the buyer documents over either Zoom or in person, however I'm doing it, and I'll say, okay, I know I said that typically the list seller will pay my fee. My fee has a minimum of 2.8% or 2.5 or whatever you're doing. Okay, your business, your choice, right? My fee is 2.8%. Now I know the states here that you're obligated to pay, but let's look at the second part of this paragraph. And I'll say, this is where it says I have the right to now negotiate that on your behalf into the contract to get the buyer to sell, to get the seller to pay.
I'd say another place that we're seeing it is if people are finding off-market deals where they're saying, oh, my friend wants to sell me their house and it's not on the market, but you've been showing me homes, and that's where we can say, I'm happy to facilitate the transaction, but that's where I need to get compensated. We'll write it into your offer there.
Okay, all right,
One other thing that we get pushback on is this listing period, and we usually do a minimum for buyers at least 3 months.
I would say for buyers who need to.
I usually do 3, and so with that. As if that, it's an easier conversation. At that point, you've had a good relationship if you're not under contract, and you can always extend it. But people get freaked out when they feel like they're locked into something. Just make sure to mention to them that there is a right to cancel on section. This is an older one, so I don't want to say it's section 10 on the newer one, but just let them know. And like Katie like Katie said, if we're not doing a good job and we're not showing up or answering our phones, you can fire us. And we'll also tell them, like, hey, if we're showing you good homes and you keep wanting to see more and we're bringing everything to you that you're asking us to, it goes both ways. And we do point that out.
love it. All right, just a tip. I always give my buyers a copy of a blank contract to buy and sell.
What was that?
I always give my buyers a copy of a blank contract to buy and sell. At whatever meeting I'm sitting down with. And the reason I do that is because that way they can review the contract. If you have a buyer who wants to read every single line. Okay, and I can tell you, last night I was talking to somebody and it was like 7:30 and they were sitting down to do offers at 8:30. And if the first time the buyer is gonna see that contract to buy and sell, 8 o'clock, you're not gonna make the deadline. So if you give those to your buyer in advance, you can say, hey, here's a copy of what we'll use when we submit our offer. Take a look at it. We'll go through it at that time, but sometimes buyers like to look at it in advance. It will speed that process up for you. Okay,
I have a question.
now let me see if I have any more notes. Yes, ma'am.
How often do people like Rhea say, oh, I'll read this tonight when you hand them the contract? Cause that, unless your presentation, you guys aren't so confident and you kept asking, what questions you have. I mean, I liked how friendly you were with it, but I just, wonder about that.
Unless you're working with an attorney.
Yeah.
I wasn't planning on reading it.
Struggling to read this right now. So
And it's cute. I've had first time home buyers before where I give it to them and like we show up and like to go look at homes and everything. They have it like wet signatures, like, oh, we made sure to like get everything signed for you. I'm like, what? Great. Like, I'm like, we could do this like,
And we follow up and say in a couple of days, and say, like, are you ready to go over this? Because then we tell them, like, you can do it from home, we'll just do it over a conference call and you can scroll along with us and we'll point out violations. And we usually try to get it done. To not run into the problem that Margaret just described, is get it done before you start showing them stuff. Because then because going through somebody's first offer with them, that can take
some time.
a minute.
Yeah,
And if you don't have to do this on top of that,
it's a lot of contracts.
they're gonna have a headache by the time you get done with their offer.
Yeah. And I typically do not show up at the consultation with the actual agency agreement. Because I'm really there to build a relationship and just go to the high level. There's nothing wrong with that, if you absolutely do it that way. Just make sure that you're getting it signed before you show homes. Why would you want to do that?
If something happens,
Okay, could be, what else?
so you're not wasting your time.
So you're not wasting your time, so they don't show up at my open house and I swoop in and take them away from you, yeah, there's that one, what else? If you don't have an agency relationship signed with the buyer, what are you?
TV.
Your transaction broker. And a transaction broker, is that the highest level of relationship, is that best for the buyer? No. Right, maybe start showing them homes and start giving them advice instead of being a referee while you're showing homes. You're not really being a TV all of a sudden, even though that's really what you are. And David said that's the #1 area where agents, we can't stop ourselves. We cannot stop ourselves.
I was saying, one thing I always like to share stories, because I feel like that's where you learn is from other people's experiences. I had one where it was a past client, as far as helped their family, helped them, as far as purchasing a home. And well, come to find out, even though it was just him that was buying the home, there was a girlfriend involved. I think maybe she was on it, or she was on it, she did sign it. No, she was just a girlfriend.
She was a random chick.
Anyway, come to find out, her dad was an
This was
agent.
after Katie got on the contract.
Yeah.
Like the second home this guy's ever bought.
Yeah, and, I was gonna say, we put an offer in, and granted, we did not have our buyer agency signed yet for this one, just knowing that they're a past client, they've bought multiple properties with us. And her dad wanted a referral fee.
'Cause her dad was licensed.
He was, and then he was also an attorney, and I was more worried, knowing the fact that he was an attorney, that the fact that I've been advocating as an agent and I paid the referral fee, because there could have been a lot more consequences, and that was, even if you know somebody very well, then, yeah, that was one lesson I learned.
Love it.
And got that agency in place, because it was somebody, oh, we've worked with them multiple times in the past, and no problem here, but then now that somebody else was in the picture, and her dad was an attorney in California, now he's actually referred business to us, so I don't feel so bad about having to pay him a referral fee, but I'm like, where did you come into the picture? And they try to play that card, if not, we'll try to, maybe we'll find somebody else. So, and I wanted to make sure I still got paid.
Zoom. Okay, well,
Crickets.
nobody's there. Well, Casey was sleeping earlier. You have questions? Hey, Scott. You guys got any questions for him?
No, I thought it was very thorough and well done.
Wonderful. All right.
One thing, I
Question, go
know,
ahead.
one more story, when you go over this with your first time buyers, just ask them if they met anybody else. Signed this with anybody else, because they will lie to you sometimes. Katie had this happen where she asked somebody, have you ever signed this with anybody else? Like, no, some guy showed me homes, but I didn't sign anything. Well, Katie got him under contract and closed, and that agent called and said, I haven't
As soon as that
I have a
closed,
valid agreement with that guy. And that guy and his dad had to pay that agent an undisclosed amount of money. Nothing they could go back on Katie.
no, I asked multiple times, and I had it too, where I have you sign this, and I guess he signed it with an offer at one point, because they had the offers on places. And didn't know exactly what he had signed too, but that agent did go back after his commission.
But
So I was.
Don't be afraid to ask twice.
Yeah, ask buyers, have you signed anything? And even if you signed anything, and whether you don't think it's just an offer, not an agency agreement, send it over.
And exclusive right to buy
Mhm.
and exclusive right to sell, they now have to disclose if they have or have not. But you're absolutely correct, there are agents out there who combine it all, bundle it nice and neat with that first offer, they worked as a transaction broker, and they sneak those agency agreements in. When the emotion of wanting the property takes over. And they will sign anything to put that offer in the house, right? If you're the agent who's very upfront, right? You're gonna do these things in steps so they understand what they're doing.
They wanted me to pay, and I said, no, I was upfront, and asked that multiple times, I'm not paying for his part of, I'm not, they asked if I'd give back some of my commission. No,
Did you lie to me? No, no problem, right? So, perfect. All right, questions in the room? We still got 35-ish minutes, so. What are the things you are getting pushed back on your buyers?
I am wondering how you work in so like if there's the seller is offering 2%, but you still have that 28% to be paid by the buyer, how do you work that into the offer, or, I don't know, not sure how that works.
So there's actually a clause that Damien has written in the clause catalog where we can specifically put in there that the seller is to pay 2.8% of the commissions. So there's actually put it in the additional provisions of the offer that the seller agrees to pay that different amount.
And Jordan, you said something that was helpful, which is when it's a for sale by owner, they're saving 6%. And if they pay you, they're saving that like 3 or 3.2%. So the seller is still saving money, even if they're paying.
Yeah, it's usually the seller, so the seller thinks they can do a listing agent.
Yeah.
They understand.
I'll put a sign in the yard, I can sell my own home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then the buyer's agent usually does 99% of the work. They understand.
No, you're gonna have everything. Or the 2 minutes, that's everything at that point.
And that's a whole nother coaching class when you go up with it, so why they only want to give you 2%, like, okay, well, who's your title? And what do you do with title insurance? And you just make their head spin, and that's.
All the disclosures, every single
And
possible.
also, you might say the 3.2% commission, but he probably undersold the house.
Right.
So if I'm working for a buyer, bring it on. I'm willing to fight for my client because I know the seller might be saving 3% by not paying a listing agent, but he's probably losing anywhere from 5 to 10, 15% on the sale of his home that he would have gotten had he used a professional like all of us in the room. So, he didn't save anything.
But for sell by owner too, we've had it before where, they do want to save on commission, but we give them you say, we have a buyer agency in place, we want our 2.8%. But then we give them the option too, say, if you, rather than you pay an attorney to facilitate your side, we'll prepare all the paperwork for an extra 1%. We'll have no relationship for you, but we'll prepare the documents and then we've gotten paid 3.8.
Yep. So that's the other thing, right? I mean, we say our minimums, right? We talk about 2.8 or 2.5 here in the market center all the time. Right, but the reality is it doesn't mean you can't charge more. Right, and that's true whether you're on the listing platform. You are absolutely right. If I'm looking for sale by owner, it's 4% to the seller. Because I know I'm gonna have to get him to a title company and I'm gonna have to hold his hand through the inspection. I'm still gonna end up writing up all the documents.
I still somebody who's always a he to you. I like that.
What?
You always give me your for sale by owners, like this guy. And I agree, like all the bad drivers are.
Or she, right? He is a generic term for stuff, right? We are not doing for that specifics here.
The other thing I was I'm sorry, what was your name? Liz, the other thing I was gonna say is you can have that conversation with your buyer and say, hey, listen, they're stuck at 2%. I think this for the work I'm gonna have to do is 2.8. I either need you to make up that 0.8% or offer that more in your offer and net that seller more money so they can justify paying. That's not gonna be every case with buyers, but in some cases, you're gonna be comfortable telling that to a buyer. If they're not okay with it, then fine, I'm not gonna do it.
It's like with Trey Laura, we had some buyers where we had to tell, like, basically they didn't have the extra funds, but then have that conversation, are you okay offering more on the home? Where then that way I can still get paid my commission.
Because honestly, it probably wouldn't be that much more anyway to get that 0.8.
And then you just pray that it praises.
Yeah.
And then, but one more thing about this, Kate, you said several times during the mock event, we will warn you if we're showing you a property where they're not offering to pay our commission. And that's another way to just kind of move it.
And by the way,
So the first thing.
you will very likely could come across a buyer who will say, fine, I'll pay it. Right? So, I mean, I've had a buyer who they came across some land. It was not a small piece of land or a small purchase price, And that particular owner said, I refuse to pay any realtor commission. I'm not paying it. If you want this house, you pay your realtor. And they pay my fee, right? So you fill out section A of the contract differently, and then your buyer brings the money to the closing table to pay your fee and whatever it is. So be careful that you don't get wrapped up in this, that the seller always has to be the one to pay. But it's that part of that conversation that you're having in this consultation environment about how do I get paid? Right? My minimum fee is this. Typically, you'll see that the listing brokerage or the seller is paying it, however, not always. And in the event that that happens, here's the different ways that we can deal with it. You can pay it, but be one of the ones.
Do you ask for that with new builds that are only paying 2% or?
We didn't, no, it's just kind of, for us, you know, we want to build that strong relationship with them, or, you know, hopefully we'll get referrals from them in the long run, or they're gonna call us and sell.
One day we'll sell that house, and the builders, they do so much of the work anyway.
Yeah, the builders, I'll take whatever they're offering, as well, hoping that it at least hits the office minimum,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
And let's be honest,
2%.
most of the time, it's 2%.
Yeah.
2% seller.
I had a 1% last year.
Well, I was gonna say, they dropped them for a while there.
They do.
I tried.
You tried, really won't. All right, any more questions on Moonland? Any more questions in the room?
Anything you're seeing with buyers that doesn't have to be the consultation part.
Yeah, that's not the consultation part, anything. Any objections or tough parts with the market right now?
So I'm gonna take this with a little bit, so, because I can't. help myself. So you guys were out at Color Real Estate with Julia Lachelle. Yes. And I had several takeaways on that. And as it came to consultations, take anything away from what she talked about?
Being consistent, how we do everything.
Being consistent, okay? Here's my question. If I took a microphone to your next buyer consultation, would it be pretty much what you just did here?
We probably in one way or another get to all the points, because we let the buyer.
We always follow
lead
this.
us. I mean, we follow this to an extent, but if they want to talk about the mortgage right away or the inspection right away, we're gonna talk about it, but we're gonna talk about it in the same capacity. The conversations don't change per bullet point. It's just the order we get to each bullet point.
Bingo, right? You want to be consistent in your consultations, whether it's a listing consultation or a buyer consultation. Because what you don't ever want to have happen is that someone accuse you of not being consistent and you treated someone who's a protected class differently. So in coaching last week, and of course, those of you that were with me knew that it blew up during coaching, so I didn't get there. But there is a video out there of an agent, and it was an undercover situation. And a couple of a protected class came in. And they walked into the office like a broker, like, you know, we do here. And they wanted to go see a house. And she said, well, I can't do that because you don't have a pre-approval. That's fine, right? I mean, that would be something that most of us would say, right? Then a couple who was not a protected class came in and asked the same agent the same question. Guess what she did? She showed them a house without a pre-approval. So the easiest way to protect yourself from doing anything inconsistent, of being accused of something, is to be consistent. So I know that we talk about practice your listing consultation, practice your buyer consultation, come to script practice, come to conversation practices, right? Come to those things. We don't say it just because we want you to waste your time, right? We want your consultations to be so consistent that if an investigator walked in the door right now and said, Sherry, give me your buyer consultation, can you go? And if you do it the same way every time, you'll just go. But if you don't, guess what you're gonna do? You're gonna stutter, you're gonna tap dance, you're gonna get nervous, and then you are gonna miss something. Okay, I don't tell you this to scare you. Please don't let me scare you, but the reality is I want to scare you enough so you practice.
One thing that's interesting and put things in perspective is one of our questions that we have on here, do you have children, pets? And the reason why I asked the question as far as, are you going to be the only decision maker? One, but I had to make sure now, I'm like thinking, I'm like, how have I asked that in the past? Where I'm not just saying like directly, do you have like, or we always say significant other, but I'm like making sure, how have I always phrased that? It made me kind of think of it differently. But the reason why we asked, is there another decision maker? We have so many buyers that they are like, oh yeah, I'm shopping for homes, but then it's like, well, now I need to show my parents. And you've been out looking at homes after the last month or like the last few weekends, and then now their parents are coming along and say, you can't buy this. And it's, where were you from day one?
Or if
So-
they're a negotiating inspection item, well, my dad said, and it's like, well, I didn't know you had a dad, we haven't talked about that.
In our new environment,
That's
we've
what-
been asking about children.
That's why I didn't even ask as far, I saw that one there, and I have to like, made me really think about it since that class.
Think about, yeah, like who else living in the home or what, you know.
Who is the decision maker?
Like, we need rooms for it, great, you know, if they need a whole room for their pets, great, that's fine. If they need a room for 5 kids, great.
Pets are a protected class.
I know,
Families are-
I know, but
That's where one of the questions I'm looking at.
Answer vague like that.
Yeah.
The question I heard, and I don't have it nailed, right, but it was something like, you know, with this move, who's gonna have the hardest time with this move?
oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Who, something like that, right? And I thought that was brilliant, right? As far as, you know, who that's being impacted by this is gonna have the hardest time with this. Right? Because that's where you're gonna find out, oh yeah, I take care of my parent and they have a disability, or I have a disabled child, or like you're gonna start to learn things. Well, guess what? By opening the big question, you get the answers you want without being specific. And I love the fact, Katie, that you had a list of questions that you wanted to make sure that you covered with your buyers. So do you have those top 10 questions that you ask throughout your weave of the buyer consultation or the listing, that when you walk away, you have the answers to?
Well, like another thing too is, you know, we want to, like, say for instance, try to elaborate more on those questions. If you would have just said, I want a yard. I'll say, well, why is a yard important to you? I have a Great Dane. And say, for instance, you're in a townhome or there was restrictions on pets, or here's another thing, I want a yard. And I'll say, well, why is a yard important to you? Because I have a pit bull. That will change things as far as certain areas that we can look in. Or, so, you know, as far as why is that important to you? Why?
What kind of dogs do you have?
Yeah,
Just
so
easy question.
that way you're not missing that later on.
Yes.
But why is that important to you? And then if you really want to touch on pain points as far as why are you moving, you can say why, and then you really find their motivation through the questions you ask. We didn't dig deep.
We didn't dig
Yeah.
in, breathe, probe us on, but like right now, it's tough, because people are like, why would I get out of the 3% rate?
I'll give you mine.
Why would I vacate my 3% rate to get into something 6.5? Well, if Bria told me, well, they have, you know, 2 kids and we're in a 1 bedroom, you know, I'm gonna revisit that. Or my commute is an hour and a half and I don't get to spend time with my kids. You kind of have to revisit that and remind them why you came to us in the first place. You gotta figure out why they came to you in the first place. And then revisit that with them. Because that, you know, that is a lot of the questions we're getting right now. Is, well, why would I get rid of my payment? You know, we're seeing that at the upper level. In my opinion, it's a want more than a need, like we talked the other day. You gotta figure out what people's wants and needs are, especially right now.
You know, speaking of that, we had this situation this past week actually with my niece and her fiance. So we finally put in an offer. They reviewed it, we were all set. The next morning, Mitch sent over, you know, this is what's gonna look like, but the rates have gone up
Yeah.
today. So then they were like, well, now we can't afford this. So looking back, I'm wondering if there was something I could have or should have said ahead of time to make them aware that that could have happened, and then suddenly now we're looking at a whole different price range.
Yeah, and you know, those are, for me personally, those are things I don't push on too hard. If they don't feel comfortable financially, I'm not, the last thing I wanna be is known as the guy that made me do something I didn't want to do.
I just feel like they were like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened, like from yesterday, we were all ready for this house and now today we can't afford it. And yeah,
I think about locking in rates occasionally, that's kind of helpful with that.
I wonder, I didn't,
Actually, Mitch told me the guy who we just got through the appraisal. Mitch encouraged him last week to lock in a rate, and he said, no, I think it's gonna go well for it. And it's-
He's a gambler.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the key, right, is that, and probably what happened, and I'm not gonna. They probably were shopping at the top of their payment budget. And that change in that interest rate tweaked it, right? And that's where that consultation with the lender and you guys is, you know, talk about the fact that rates are jumpy right now, right? And so, you know, they might come down tomorrow, we don't know.
Right, and
So go ahead, and then I have a question for you.
well, I was just gonna mention, because you just brought up a great point, Margaret, that made me think of something, you know. Your buyer consult's gonna change, because one thing I didn't tell Maria is, hey, you're approved at 500, great, we're gonna start looking at 430. Because that's what it's gonna come down to, because if you fall in love at 530, it's gonna get pushed to 575. So just with that, you know, stay in the market and stay in these conversations, because these conversations are gonna change constantly. Market to market.
You guys mentioned several times, we'll send you some good questions to ask your lenders. Will you share those questions with us, or are there just a few that you?
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty basic, they're like when I explained to Rita, you know, what are your fees? What's your origination fee? Would you help me out with my origination fee? I know lenders in.
They're at point higher.
Yeah. And then make sure you're giving recommendations, not saying, here's just one lender that we work with.
Always do more than one.
Yeah, that way it's not like something goes wrong, it's not on you. Say with inspector,
Especially with an inspector, always give more than one and let them know. I always, like you heard me say it, I'll put it in an email too. Just know we don't get anything for referring these people to you, just they do a good job.
I always say you're always welcome to use your own lender, your own inspector, this is one that we recommend.
Here's why we recommend.
Yeah, just say, but always give them that option, that way it's like, they may be.
I think one of the big things that I found in like, I've had this in the past where I don't do a buyer consultation because it's a friend, it's somebody or it's a family member or whatever, let's go, give your pre-approval and let's go kind of deal. I really shouldn't do it every time because there's so much that can come out of that consultation. And I need to be consistent. And there's so many questions I can get answered in that consultation, or that they can ask me questions.
Things may
Both
change,
ways.
they may get a girlfriend that has a
Yeah.
dad in California.
It allows exactly a friend or your family member to see you as the professional. that you are, Right? The other thing is that they didn't do it here because it wouldn't have been appropriate. Is that they gave them a copy of the exclusive right to buy. That's fine. But are you, after you get that exclusive right to buy completed along with all of the other documents that need to go out with them, are you just sending them to them and telling them to sign them? Or are you taking the time, do you, and this is not a Katie question, because I already know Katie does, right, but do you understand the contracts to the point that you can jump on a Zoom call and talk through them with them? And if the answer is no, you need to start coming to the contracts classes and practice it. Because all the things that you're talking about here, like the part about, I don't market the cost of the inspector, or we're gonna give you 3 inspectors and you look into all of this. Those are great conversations that as you're going through the exclusive right to buy are going to come up in that conversation. The exclusive right to buy is going to give you the opportunity to talk about the fact that they can fire you at any point in time, and guess what, you can fire them too. Okay?
It's okay to let buyers go.
That's
Hi.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan said 75,000 3 offers, yeah, never mind. I'll never do it again.
Or like ones that I've had it too, where they've signed an agency, but they won't get pre-approved, and I can't waste my time. And they kept refusing, I'm not gonna, I think I went and showed homes once, just to kind of have an idea, and she did reach out to a lender, but wouldn't give her the documentation. I just said, I can't.
Yeah. As business owners, the beauty of it is you have so many choices, right? You can choose to sign a buyer agency and then wait for the pre-approval. You can make the decision to not even fill out the buyer agency, because for some of you, that would take an hour of your time to fill out the contract. But if they're never pre-approved, why would you waste the hour? would you take the time to go show them houses if they're not pre-approved? So you get to choose how you do all of those things. We can tell you from 9 and 11 years of experience, right? That our time is valuable, and as you get more farther along in your careers, the more valuable all of your time will become. Right? But you choose. I don't care what you do.
Wait,
Say
And also,
The MLS, right?
that again.
We can put them on the MLS if they don't have an agent, as long as we're not showing it, they can still view houses.
Yes, and I'm probably not even gonna set them on a search until I have a pretty good idea what their budget is.
Yeah.
Because if they come in to me and they say, oh, we want 5 to 750, so Margaret, show us all houses between 650 and 750. And I start sending them $750,000 homes, and they just got pre-approved for a max of 600, what did I just do?
Waste your time, their time.
I guarantee that no house is gonna fit their standards, because they've been looking at 750, and now they can only have a 600.
Yep.
So I have set bad expectations, right? So there's a method to the madness that we teach. So that you end up with a happy client, right?
Well, going back to what Stacy said, you know, just with my niece and her fiance, that was a big error. We were looking at all of these houses. I went from Greenleaf to Centennial to Parker, whatever, I'm not gonna go into that. But the last 2 houses, that she's like, well, 2 bedrooms is really important to me. This one only has 1. And I'm like, we looked at a couple of those that would have, that.
It would have been that big now, right?
We got those houses out of the way. My fault for not doing it.
Yep.
Finding that out before I was showing them. So,
Yeah.
weren't even in there.
well, it's tough when it's with friends and family.
Yeah.
You get that. And like, that's one, I was gonna say, so we set this up at the coffee shop. One thing Jordan and I were talking, we always bring buyers, we do our consultations in the office. Not that there's anything wrong with doing it in a coffee shop, it's just less distractions, and we feel like we're setting that professional setting for them, especially when it is friends and family, bringing them into our office and just saying this is where we work and they have a chance to see it, but then that way we're establishing that relationship.
Unless you're
I did
by
it-
yourself or after hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, or somebody you don't know, or like make sure that there's people around.
Yeah, if it's somebody.
Yeah,
And then the home court advantage.
Yes.
I mean, come on, in the playoffs.
And the Wi-Fi works.
But you have that home court advantage, right? The Avalanche want home court advantage right now, right? They want the fans there, they need it, right? But it's a field, it's the home ice, home reveal, home court, whatever you want the home advantage, and that's what it brings.
Nice.
If you are a single agent and you are meeting someone here, we tell you never meet them somewhere where there's nobody else, right? Don't go show vacant homes to somebody you've never met. Same thing. If somebody says, they'll say, yeah, I'll come meet you at your office, and they want to meet you at 8 o'clock on a Friday night, or when it's dark, or there's not a lot of people around. There are enough of us between the ALC, the leadership team, and your fellow agents that would conveniently have to be working late that night, just so that there's somebody else in the building with you. So know that you guys always have that as an opportunity to just add on a layer of safety.
Yeah, I did one buyer consult at a Panera with Drew, and it was awful. It was just so distracting.
I did one, I remember I first got into real estate, I did one with my friend at her house, and it just, I was at her setting, and granted, she didn't use me. And it was a friend, but it was her and her fiance at the time, but, and it's just, you know, I would have done so many things differently, but that was probably one of my first consultations, and I went to her house, and I'm thinking, why did I even do that?
Yeah.
But,
Be ready, you can have all your stuff set out, laid out, you're trying to unpack your bags and stuff like that. It's very, like Margaret said, it's home field advantage.
Got one where it's a combination listing and buying consultation, you may do it at their house.
Sure.
yeah,
Right?
exactly.
So there's no wrong answer, guys. I mean, that's the beauty of it. My number one question I hear in coaching is it wrong? No, it's not wrong. Right?
Yeah.
We're gonna tell you best practices. We're gonna share with you things that we've learned and mistakes that we've made so that hopefully you don't make the same dumb mistakes we have. Right? But you'll have your own, I promise you that, you'll have your own.
That's how you learn.
Right, and guess what, then some coach somewhere else.
See you later.
Anything else that we can help you with, this is good.
Well, I'd say one thing too, if you get anything from this, find a consultation that you're comfortable with. Honestly, this isn't the first one that we've started with. We've tweaked it over time as far as what works for us. There's still things we probably change a little bit, but you know, I used to have, or one that we used to have was from E-Edge, which was an old KW, and so then. And E-Edge went away, but then as far as, you know, we kind of had to make our own, and so we got comfortable doing one thing, but then we had to just find what works for us, and we're still finding that system.
Yeah, and until you do a bunch of, and it's super easy for you, don't be afraid to make mistakes. You're gonna forget things. I forgot things with Bria, and I kind of want to come back into the conversation, but it's like public speaking, like, they don't really just make mistakes, I know you know that. So don't let it trip you up, don't let it get in your head, just keep rolling with it and bring it back into the conversation.
So great point. The more you're practiced and you know what you want to talk about. Remember, when we talk about, we're not supposed to use the word script anymore, but I can't help it, right? When you use the script of your consultation, it's designed to make sure that you know and have a pecking order to cover everything. And Bria was way too nice to them. Bria was very nice. It doesn't make you rail them 100 ways to fun. Right now, so I'm just not the right person, but you're going to have clients that are going to start to take you down a bunny hole. Right? And it would be very easy to continue down the bunny hole and get so distracted if you're not practiced and rehearsed that you can't pull yourself back together. Right? But by knowing your cadence, when they start to take you down a rabbit hole, you obviously answer the question, but your script will bring you back on track. Right? It will help your play continue, right?
And the paper with your questions that you want to make sure you hit. Like if you have something in front of you with all the specific things you want to hit, even if you've gone off track, you're gonna come back and go, oh, hey, we didn't talk about.
It keeps it moving along too. If it's just nothing here and then it's this conversation and you're thinking, what am I missing? And then they're thinking, do I need to be talking? Do they need to be talking? If they see this kind of a guideline, then it
And
helps.
that's, is that what you guys really helped me think of today, is how am I gonna pull together all the materials I have to have consolidated lists that I can work from and know that I'll take the same things to everyone.
And honestly, there's a tool that starts with C and it's a D, it's called command. There's a design thing in there. There are multiple buyer packets that you can use that pages. Put your name on it, throw in and out the stuff you want. Don't overthink getting it already. I would say that we probably look at our consultation booklets probably once a year when we reprint them. Whenever Susan can work, there's only 5 left. And we typically like think about it again. Oh, okay, what do we want to change? What do we need to tweak based on the environment that we're in today? Right, and things that we've learned and changed.
Also too, at the bottom, it does show like the actual steps, like, because you know that we kind of go through it, but it says the process at a glance. Usually I circle back, say, you know, we went through this process with you, but if you want step-by-step number, check out the last page and it has it as far as kind of chat with us, pre-approved, start search, make an offer.
So 2 questions. So you guys have all these papers and whatever. Were you willing to share those with those people that joined us today?
Yeah.
We can send you the soft copy, we'll make sure. Would you guys like a copy of their buyer consultation?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're like-
You also mentioned your email of like what comes next.
Yeah.
Is there kind of like I don't mean the whole thing, but like there's a highlight of what you guys kind of go through? I mean, I think a lot of these things, but I'm probably not thinking about 20 minutes into you might put in there.
Yeah, it's a great, because like, you go through the contract process and like sometimes it gets a little stale, like there's nothing to talk about. And it's like, hey, we want to keep in touch with them. But right after we go under contract, the first email out is, hey, there's 2 very pressing items right now, earnest money and inspection. You explain again what earnest money is, how to turn it in, where to turn it in, get your earnest money receipt, and then inspection as well. That's where you can refer your inspectors and things like that. So then once you get through the inspection process, hey, here's what's coming next. Now we're looking at the appraisal. Get your appraisal. Hey, now we're going to talk about scheduling, closing, and anything else that comes up like that. Each situation is a little bit different, but as you complete one step, there's always one more until you get to closing. So
We're always adding to our what comes next email too.
Ours changed, yeah.
As I say, we've ran into a couple scenarios, and that's why we bring up earnest money at our consultation, where we've had buyers that haven't had earnest money to turn in. And so they had to either get it gifted from a family member. We've had it before where they tried to put it on a credit card or do a cash advance, and that won't fly with the lender.
We did ask early on, is there anybody else or said something, you said you didn't want to say that, but that's something we always cover with on this one, is tell them, if this is gifted, you need to let us know ahead of time, because that can cause a problem.
So it wasn't, it was actually, I was taking notes on my phone back there about, I was gonna ask questions, and then that was one of them I erased, because you did bring it in, just to make sure that
Yes.
we covered that. So there was one thing I noticed. That conversation, the way you handled it, could have gone forever. How do you get me to commit to you? Where do you ask the question? Where do you close it? How do you close?
I don't know that we have a close, our close is let's get you going on a search and get out and find your house, and they're usually like, yeah, let's do it.
So you usually assume close.
Yeah.
You assume close, you're hired me, we're done, sign the agency and we go.
Now,
Okay?
and a lot of our conversations are past clients or referred clients, and those are a little bit easier. If it was somebody we didn't know, we would follow up and say, do you have any additional questions for us?
You're comfortable with
Are you comfortable moving forward with us so we can go ahead and get your?
There we go. Good. Are you comfortable moving forward with us?
Mhm.
Because we want to follow it up and say, are you comfortable moving forward with us so we can go ahead and get your search set up and get you some information sent over. That way saying, like, if you want something from me, I want something from you.
Yep.
We're gonna have this skin in the game, both of us.
Yep. So that's what I wanted to point out, right? They assumed that she was going with them the whole way.
She was referred by John.
Yeah.
John.
Oh, John. It's John.
Yeah.
Isn't it John from Fort Worth, he did send me listening. So here's the other thing though. So one of my favorite ones is, I usually ended up with relationships. There's 3 different types: agency, transaction broker, customer. And by that time, they're like, well, we want the agency. So that makes it really easy to get the agency agreement signed, right? Okay, if you've ever been on the contract class, teach how to do that. But then I will literally look at her and say, so you ready to put me to work?
Yeah, there you go.
Right? And then when they say yes, I'll say, great, I'm gonna go home, draft the paperwork, we'll set up a Zoom, we'll go. Right? Not my way's the best, but that's my way, but I always like to share that because it worked. But I wanted to make sure we talked a little bit about the close, okay? Any other questions? Zoomland keeps getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Mike is still with us, Elaine holding in. Do you guys have any questions? What is it worth your time?
I think if the person can tell that you put in the prep time to do your presentation, they're gonna wanna go with you. It makes it asking for that piece of business so much easier if you're prepared, if they can tell you put something into this. If you show up and stumble your way through and it's 15 minutes, they're gonna think, well, how much effort did this person put in to earn my business?
Right.
The more you put into it, the more they're gonna, whether they think you're the best person for the job or not, they're gonna at least want to give you an opportunity.
Awesome. All right, well, we have hit our time. So first of all, thank you. I know you guys are super, super, super busy. Because there's no doubt spring is from in Denver. And so we greatly appreciate you guys taking 3 hours out of your busy week to share and show and teach us how it works. And so we greatly, greatly thank you guys. Thank you for your, and you have to see pictures on your social media. Okay, well, okay.